Derek Yach, the Chief Health Officer of the Vitality Institute, a offshoot of South Africa, sitting in New York. Before we get into any detail about Vitality Institute and what you're actually doing here in Davos, a little bit about you. I was going through your CV. You got your MBCHH, is that right, at UCT?
Yes, I did medicine at UCT and then did epidemiology at Stellenbosch, so I guess work Marty, and then a master's at Johns Hopkins, and spent many years in South Africa in research before going to the World Health Organization, where I spent 10 years, not far from here.
And then a professor at Yale.
Yes, professor at Yale. I can't keep a job down, and then spent time at the Rockefeller Foundation before 5 years at PepsiCo. And then Adrian got me to join the Discovery Vitality program.
Derek, just to go back a little bit, you were in academia for quite a long time. What made what incentivized you to make the shift?
I think the biggest thing was the sense that in academia you can talk and talk and talk, whereas certainly in the business sector you have to act and you need to see real results. And I saw that frustration between fantastic research we were doing and publishing in pretty obscure journals, not really leading to the change that I thought we could get at a scaled level. So PepsiCo, for the first time, I saw that we're reaching billions of people around the world, and even if you lowered the salt, sugar or fat in a tiny fraction of the products, you'd be reaching billions at a scale unparalleled. Similarly now with Vitality, the opportunity to improve health in pragmatic ways as opposed to just write about it really drew me in.
Yeah, Vitality, one can understand. You're incentivizing people to get healthier, but PepsiCo is not known to be producing healthy products.
If you take the long view, I think you'll see that the healthiest part of the PepsiCo portfolio today is actually now the most profitable part is the healthiest part. And a lot of that started with R&D 7-8 years ago. Similarly, we're seeing companies, Unilever, even some of the tobacco companies, I dread to even comment, are starting to produce reduced risk products. Long term, this is good because if market forces start driving health behaviors and not just government laws and regulations, I suspect we'll see a faster uptake on products that consumers are going to want and love, and that could lead to better health.
We're talking about market forces. The World Economic Forum is a great believer in market forces and seeing the way that the market drives it. You're involved here on quite a number of levels, but I was interesting to see that you're on the global agenda for aging, or what is happening with aging. And one of the sessions that you're involved in is looking at, well, what happens if we live to 150 years old or forever? Is that a possibility?
I think with the type of technology change we're seeing, one never wants to rule it out. I think it's certainly for the foreseeable centuries, we'll be basically trying to address the question, how can we live longer? How can we live in good health with good mental function for longer periods of time? And thirdly, and probably most importantly, how can we ensure that the benefits of these technologies accrue to all people and not just the wealthiest and those who are able to afford them? All of these things are happening very fast. As you said, I chair the Agenda Council on Aging, and we've been looking over the last few years, particularly at the issue of cognitive decline and how
What does that mean?
How mental faculties with age generally start going down. Some of it is disease, Alzheimer's. Some of it we thought we simply don't know what is driving it. But the reality is that with age, about a quarter of the people will suffer serious effects on how their thinking processes happen. The question is, what can we do over the short term? Over the long term, people are betting on pharmaceuticals and new treatments. In the medium and short term, we believe that the technology companies, the role of robotics and of Google and of some of the software companies are starting to provide better ways of detecting changes in your mental health, starting to intervene and support you. There are other factors which are critical as well. The role of activity and basic food that we consume affects our mental health. So that's going to be some of the themes that we're addressing both here and in a series of meetings around the world. Ask this question, how can we maintain and improve the brains of older people, something we're all too aware of as we get older.
It's interesting if we can just explore that a little bit further. 25% of people, if I read you correctly, are not going to have the same mental faculties when they die. But that inverted says 75% will, or when they die of old age. Why is there so many people that actually do not deteriorate?
It's a great question. I think generally in public health we don't ask the opposite way around. And when I said 25%, I should have said by age 70, 75. By the time you get to 85, 90, 95, that figure's 50% plus.
What about diet? The Japanese do have a very different diet to the West.
You know, there have been these studies around the world looking at many places where you have a grouping of older people, and the diets are generally the same. Obviously, there are local peculiarities, but they all come down to many being plant-based, many being based on a lot of vegetables and fruits, meats and fish sparingly, certainly not excessive meat, a diversity in the diet, a lot of fluid, not much alcohol, but water, a lot of water. Dairy in many parts of the world seems protective. And when you use oils, the Mediterranean diet tells us about the value of olive oil and heart-friendly oils as opposed to palm oil or some of the very unhealthy oils we have.
Derek Yach is the Chief Health Officer at the Vitality Institute in the US.